Okay, Barakim V'Nebrahim, everybody. This is Jeff Gilbert. We are Talking Torah. This is our very first video cast, vodcast, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to give an overview of who we are. This is kind of our introduction to our YouTube channel. Now, I don't have a really nice studio, and you're going to see some lighting problems, and, I'm working on that, and that just comes through trial and error, right? So, but, it's pretty nice. I guess it's okay. So with that being said, I'll do my very best to remember to look at the camera, not at the monitors. I don't want to look at myself talk. I want to look at the camera so you can see me looking at you. So anyhow, with that being said, we're going to be doing 10-minute video casts on different subjects. We have several subjects already lined up. But today is just going to be an overview of who Talking Torah is for those who don't know that we've been doing podcasts for quite a number of years now. So, Talking Torah, we are not a representative of Judaism. We are not a representative of Christianity. We have our background. We came from Christianity. My father was Jewish. I wasn't raised Jewish. I was brought up, pretty much as a free thinker, and I really appreciate that. So, anyhow, with that being said, what we do speak of, you will not hear much, if any, Talmudic involvement, there are times where we may say things that will point to a Talmudic source, but that'll be very rare, because I don't want to represent the perspective of Judaism, because I am not part of Judaism per se, and not formally, at least from that perspective. And I don't want to be treated as if I am speaking on behalf of Judaism. We were Christian for quite a number of years. We were Christian for 30 years plus. And the Christian doctrines and dogmas, we have done our very best over the last 7-8 years to rid ourselves of. And there's an awful lot to do, right? For those who are listening to this, for the most part, for the large majority, you will be people who are in the same boat, who were once Christian. Very few people who are Jews will, really find any value in what we're talking about per se. And my audience, the audience that we have, is primarily for those who are questioning why they should believe Christianity just because they were told to, and why is that the requirement, and what are the foundations within Torah to support or not support the Christian perspective of the Bible. So some of the things that we believe, just to kind of get an overview, it's 10 minutes that we're trying to do this, so I'm trying to keep it within a certain window. So several things that we believe. Number one, we do not believe that Jesus has a salvific role in your life. We do not believe Jesus has a messianic role in your life. When I say we, I'm just talking for myself. I'm not trying to create a new religion. I do not want people to think that there is that is my motivation. My motivation is to share with you those things that I've learned. As far as religion goes, I think that the religion of Torah was something that was created by the husband, or by the head of household. That the head of household, he set the religion for his household, the traditions of his household. That each of the 12 tribes were individual and unique, and they each had a different perspective and way that they did certain things. Obviously, in the case of Levi, that's one of the commandments, is that they do things differently. But that each house had a freedom within their house to build upon the Torah in any way they wanted to, and that those traditions and those oral traditions and so forth were unique to each house. And that it was the right of the father, or the head of the household, to set those traditions for his household. Now, that perspective, I think, is substantiated within the Torah. And as we get into these podcasts, our vidcasts, I will do my best to expound upon that and give my support for that. So when it comes to religion, I believe that my religion is not something that you can be a part of, because my religion is for my house, for my wife, for our children when that happens. So no, this is not about starting a new religion. I try to teach things from a perspective that is very similar to that of Karaites. I try to call myself a Torah pragmatist. Just take a pragmatic perspective of Torah, what can be done and how is it done in our lives today. That after a certain foundation has been set, and that's set within Torah, that once that foundation is set, you can build upon that however you want to. Make it yourself. Make it your own. And that's what we truly believe that. So as we go through these podcasts, I'll try to do more to explain that and give you textual references for those things. From a perspective of textual references, I believe, and it's primarily in our foundation, a primary doctrine within our foundation, that our dogma, whatever, that the preeminent text, the most divine text, to use that word, is what God wrote with his own hands. That is the pinnacle of all texts. And that is the Ten Commandments. You see it in Deuteronomy 5, Deuteronomy 5, depending on the translation, around verse 20. And it says, that Moses says that the covenant that God wrote with his own hand, or with his own finger, that is the pinnacle of all things divine. After that, there's Moses' writings. In Moses' writings, it says we're not allowed to add to nor subtract from what Moses has built as a framework for us to work within, our understanding of God and how he interacts with humanity. And then finally, the Deuteronomy in chapter 13 tells us to, depending on translation, 13:1, or the last verse in chapter 12 tells us again not to add to or subtract. And then in 13, full on, it says that we're not even to listen to somebody who brings a new doctrine or a new gospel, you could use as today's vernacular. That we're not even to hear them. Don't fear them. They have no power over you. Even if they bring miracles, even if they bring signs and portents, that you're not to sway from what Moses has said. So at the pinnacle, if you want to take the triangular perspective, there's God's writing, and then beneath that, the next layer would be Moses' writing, and then beneath that would be anywhere where it says, thus has Yehovah said, or Yehovah has said, or thus saith Yehovah. That's the next thing in line, and then everything else is the buffer. Everything else is the filler and the content. Historical data, geographic data, things like that, which pertain or help us to understand the other information, but it can never be presented as equal to or have the ability to adjust or change anything above it. Now, within the prophets, I'll give you an example of where there is a bit of overlay there, and where the prophets, for the example of Zephaniah. Zephaniah will go through and explain that Babylon is going to judge Assyria, and judge Cush and Put and so forth, and that that Babylon's going to be used for that. That's not in Torah, but we do have in Torah that God will judge nations that deal harshly with Israel. So it does work within the framework. It adds detail that wasn't necessarily available to Moses, but that detail must fit within the framework. It can't change the framework. For example, if you go to a book like Job, that describes God as a God who would test a man's faith by killing his entire household and destroying his wealth, and then destroying his, or trying, or going through the process of destroying his own body. That sits outside the framework of Moses. So for me, Job sits outside of the framework of this entire triangular shape, because it changes the framework of Moses, and it does not fulfill an historic value nor a poetic value. Personally, from my perspective, Job is one of those examples of a Second Commonwealth book, a book that was written to give an example to Israel about why they've gone through so much suffering. With that being said, I want to thank you for paying attention or listening to our very first vidcast. I hope you can put up with the yellow face and sometimes the herky-jerky motion of the video. That's just because you work with what you got, right? And so I hope you guys can get something out of this. We will be coming out with these vidcasts on a more regular basis, and I hope you have an opportunity to view them. And if you do, please like them, please share them. We don't do this for money. I'm not asking for money. I'm not trying to get you to send it out to people so they send money, nothing like that. but I believe that the message is an intriguing message. And for some people, it seems to be a message that answers questions that they haven't quite been able to answer before. Not that I've done anything great and wonderful. It's just I have a perspective that seems to resonate with people. So for that reason alone, I ask that if you like it, please share it, and hopefully we can help people with their studies, because that's really all we're doing. I don't care if you're a Christian. I don't care if you're Jewish. I don't care if you're anything. As long as you're a peaceful person and desire peace and the betterment of mankind, then I don't care what you believe. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter to anybody. Your personal faith is your personal faith. If you're going to base that personal faith upon a common document, in this case Torah, then we will have agreements or disagreements based upon that common document. However, your faith is personal, and you can choose to live that faith however you desire. It's a wonderful thing about life, right? So with that, I want to thank you guys for joining us for this time, and I hope that this video is visually and audibly pleasable to you. Shalom Aleichem, you guys. We'll talk to you next time.
We're talking Torah. Talking Torah.